Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to season 4, episode 7. We're back with another great episode. We have such a treat with you guys. We've actually had this guest at the beginning of the season. We brought him back for a specific purpose because God's been moving in his life so powerfully. He's been growing in ministry and in his marriage. It's so amazing to have him back. What do you think, Oscar?
Yeah, man. This is your brother, your spiritual brother, little brother. You call
My
him,
little
right?
baby brother.
So we're really excited and to see what God has done in his life, and we're just really excited to see what's new. What God has been doing through every area of your life, man. So welcome.
Welcome, Javier. Um, yeah, bro, man, it's been amazing seeing you grow these last couple months. It's been about, what, 2 months? 3 months? Almost 2 months. A lot's happened. A lot has happened. You've evolved a lot. I see a whole different Javier at Cell Group, and a lot of people don't know. Javier actually had his first preaching this last Thursday, this last Wednesday at Cell Group, or like 2 weeks ago. Man, all I can say is if we were recorded for you guys, it ministered to me, it ministered to a lot of the men. But man, like, tell us your experience about preaching at Cell Group.
First of all, thank you for having me again. It's always an honor to be here, And about that is, man, I've seen it here in church. I've seen a lot of men. I've seen Oscar just, go up on stage and do the thing, and they make it look easy, bro. But honestly, it's not. It takes a lot of preparation, and just being there and just being there, it was a nerve wracking. That's what, right? And I was really nervous about sharing, and thoughtful. I thought a lot of like, man, like me, like really, am I gonna preach to these men that have been here more than I am? But God moves, and He moves for a reason. He put us here for a reason. So I'm just happy to keep growing and keep getting involved in whatever work He puts me on.
And you said something, you preached something at Cell Group that George says it. He's been saying it the last couple cell groups, and honestly, it's been ministering to me every day. And you said something so powerful that we need to stop seeking the hand of God and start seeking His face. Like, can you give us like what came to thought when you thought, or like, what did you mean by that?
Well, it's just raw. Like it's just like a lot of us, and I include myself. Like first, we come to when we start walking with God, like we start seeing, like, oh, what can He do for me, or like we start asking in prayer, like, oh God, like help me uh, overcome this, or help me go through this, or please God, allow me to grow more. But we're so focused on just asking and asking and asking, and so like it kind of like becomes a habit. But like why don't we just start looking for him, you know like look for his face, like look for to have that relationship with him. It's not just about I heard this too, and God is not like an ATM. We don't just go and to click something and get something in return. Like we gotta go and give our time, seek for him, have that intimacy with him, and that's pretty much what I thought, why I mean.
And something else happened, in the ministry. We're all called to be part of a 12. Something that I've learned on my journey is that a 12 is not a title. You know, a 12 is a mission given by God to your leader to take on his mission and to take on to be a disciple maker. And you were called to be part of George's 12. And you're part, and it's been amazing to call you my co-servant. Um, but yeah, brother, it's such an honor to be walking with you, to have you be part of our team. But like, what is being part of George's 12 meant to you, or like how's that helped you like grow in your walk with God, with Jesus?
Yeah, it means a lot, bro. It means like, so it means that whatever work I'm doing for God, or God plants us where we're gonna grow, and eventually, like when I look for George, I was looking for a solution, right? For Because I was really hurt in my marriage and everything. So I was looking for a solution. I was looking for him to like get me out of the struggle I was in, right? I didn't know that I was gonna be involved in church. I didn't even know that the church had this vision of like discipleship and stuff, and I was blind about that. And so coming to talk to George and coming to like have this relationship with him, and him taking me under his wing and like always being there for me and allow me to, he opens the doors of his house for me, every week. Um and not just that, but like everything that he pours and everything that I learned here in church from you guys, from pastor, it means that, like sometimes we think that people don't see, what we change or how we change or the things how we see things now. But it's amazing to see or to be able to be called, bro. Like when I knew, I was like, oh, they have the 12 and they do this. I always hear, oh, Pastor P, the 12. It's awesome. I was like, man, like when am I gonna be called? I asked my question like, bro, like when? Like I've been here almost a year and like nothing, you know. But Chewy, I used to talk to Chewy and he emphasized a lot. Like we had like 3 talks, and in those 3 talks, he said that he said, oh no, but like when George and Janet called you, and then he rephrased it. He's like, no, 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 no. It's not when. It's like, no, never mind. Let me take that back. He said, if they called you, right? And then he rephrased it. He said, no, no, it's not about an if. It's like when they called you, because they are gonna call you. You are gonna be part of the team. So it is awesome, bro. It's awesome to serve along. You're my co-servant. It's also to see how powerful you are, bro. Like in word and how you share word and the way you talk and learn from you and from everybody. It's awesome. It's an honor.
No, I'm sorry, bro. It's just I just because being a team of 12, right? I think we have a lot of new believers at church. We have a lot of new people that haven't grasped the notion of being a 12. I'm guilty. Me and Oscar used to talk about it all the time. That hey, like I wonder when I'm gonna be called to a 12. Like I've like hey, I think I deserve to be a 12. I had that mindset. And something that God ministered to me is like when you have that mindset, like hey, when am I gonna be called? You're not you're not ready, because something that Oscar told me, and I still take it to this day, is for you to be a 12 is like no matter what, if you're called or not, you still have to be willing to be a disciple of God, and you have to be willing to carry on what Jesus told us to do, make disciples and so many, soul winners. Despite being a 12 or not, you're still gonna have to be willing to do what God called you to be. So I think when you're being called to a 12 is because God thinks you're ready. Not when you're ready, when God thinks you're ready. And before Oscar, like before you ask him a question, like I want to ask you, because you've been walking with Pastor Pablo, part of his team, but can you elaborate what being a 12, or like, how being a part of a team of 12?
Thanks for sharing that, dude. I was actually gonna. It leads to the question I was gonna ask you, because it's really cool to see excitement in your eyes, that joy, the feeling of wanting to be part of a team. Like, and it's really cool to see someone excited about it. I remember it brings back memories. Like you should be excited to be called to. What a great honor to. We could be in Miami FC, playing next to Messi, but being part of a 12, man, that's a bigger purpose. Because he could win a championship, but we're winning people to God. And I've always seen it that way. I've always seen it like what an honor it is to serve God. And so when you're saying also, I think it's really important that people sometimes do not see purpose in serving. And so unless you see purpose in serving, then you will give being called of a 12 its true meaning and fulfillment. So if your purpose is just to be a 12 for the sake of a position, like it doesn't matter if you're part of Pastor Pablo's 12 or George's 12 or my 12. If it's just for a position, for a title, you know, it's as good as nothing. But if you're called and your purpose is to win people for God, man, you could do so much damage in the world. And so it's really cool to see you, and Pastor Pablo once told us that you could be self-appointed. You could be appointed by someone, or you could be appointed by God. And I think that God appointed you to be at the right time with George and Janet. So it's really awesome to see your excitement. Don't ever lose that, man. Keep it. It's contagious. So it's really cool. So what?
I'm
Mhm.
sorry, can I share something with
Sure.
you? I think it's awesome because I want to show like the people who are watching, but also like something awesome about Javier. We have this new gentleman at cell group. I'm not gonna say names, but just to see, this is how much I've seen this man grow. So he's married, right? He's married. This guy, not him, but the other guy's married. We were talking, and then Javier comes to me after, and he's like, "Hey, bro, are you gonna talk to him? Like, I'm like, no, bro, that's you, bro. Like, he's like, hey, this is your disciple, bro, and I'm like, no, this is your disciple, bro.
Yeah,
And
it's funny because yeah, and like I had talked to him. I already kind of like clear this, because yeah. So I've been talking to this guy, and but I went up to him, like how we do here in church, right? We see someone new and we go after him. So I went after him and I started talking to him. Hey, bro, what's up? Blah blah blah. And he said this. He said, "Oh, I've been talking to also, right?" So I came back to church, and then I saw also, and I'm like, bro, like are you talking to this guy or what? But it sounded weird. It sounded like in a mean way, but I never meant it in a mean way. And I was like, "Are you talking to him or what?" And I was like, he's like, "No, no, no. Like, I can't do it anyways because I'm not married. He's married. You're married, so that's all you." But yeah, it's funny that he mentioned that because it did happen and it happened like in a. I felt it was rough, like the way I came to him.
but I
You
saw
know.
it differently. I felt like a brother, like a proud moment. I'm like, that's awesome that you want to disciple this man, like
That's
that
awesome.
you want to make disciples. I just wanted to share that, because
That's
I think
beautiful,
that was
dude.
beautiful,
The transition, like that transition of like coming to church just to receive, listen to a preaching, and then leave, not talk to anyone. Like you haven't been coming to church for a long time. How long has it been? Like over a year. So tell us about how now you see yourself as a disciple maker, as someone who got called, and you're not waiting a year and a year of messages or learning the Bible. You're going straight into the trenches. You see somebody in the stands, and you're like, I'm gonna go and talk to them so I could be there, like I could disciple them. So tell us a little bit about that, because there's people who've been in church for 10, 15, 20 years that don't transition, you know?
Yeah, of course. So I feel like, uh, Pastor Pablo shared something on Friday, and that really kind of like, uh, how what's the word? Like, kind of like cleared it for me in a way. Like, so he said, "Don't be afraid of get rejected," you know, and I felt this before, and I have talked to people like, before I was like, I started coming, and I was like, man, I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna talk to someone. And they'll be like, oh no, don't talk to me about that, or some of them they do, like they listen to you and they kind of like get you hyped up, and then they don't show up. But I lost that fear of being rejected. And of course it's still kind of shake you up a little bit, but when uh, what I have, I just want to share it with everybody. I want to share. Man, the old me is like really bad, bro. Like, and so the new things that I have, the new vision that God has given me, and the new purpose that He have given me, the directions and or the direction that He's taking me, bro. Like, I just want to share it with everybody. I just want everybody to hop on it and be like, bro, like we're going in the right way. Let's go. Don't stay back. But it's still like it's that like it's losing that fear of being rejected. Like nothing's gonna happen. The worst thing is gonna happen is they're gonna say no, but man, think about the what if they say yes. We're bringing people to Christ. We're making the kingdom large. Which is our purpose.
I think a lot of churches, maybe someone who maybe not have done what we do may think like, wow, what are they talking about? What do they mean about going and spreading the gospel? But like you're right, you're absolutely right. Like if you have something in you, you want other people to experience it, because you've experienced a lot of things. You've experienced restoration in your life, in your marriage, and so what's the drive? What motivates you to see someone and say, I'm gonna talk to them? And as someone who recently got called to be a part of a 12, like what's the motivation for you now? How is that different than what it was when you first came in?
No, it's just like the fire is still on. Like we're like the things that I know now I didn't know before, and like my motivation is like I like so part of being a 12, right? Like you get poured in, but the purpose of you getting poured in is for you to pour out, right? And so I'm just trying to like so I'm part of a cell group, but eventually I'm gonna have my own cell group, and so for me to get my own cell group and obviously to have my people that I can pour in, I have to go and search, bro. I have to go and like and seek for them, and like preach to them. And I love something that Pastor Pablo said also, that it happens to me before. I'm like, man, what am I gonna say? You know, like, what word am I gonna use? But Pastor Pablo shared something. He said, when you don't have nothing to say, just preach of what God has done for you, to you, And so, like, you have words, you have a lot of things to say, because God has done a lot of things for us, for me especially, So
And
yeah.
man, tell us a little bit about that. Like, to share what God has done for you, like, you have to know what God has done. So, what has He done in your life? Like, what do you share with someone? How deep do you get? How, like, I don't know if you could walk us through that, because I think most people get stuck in the, like, I'm not even going to share anything because I don't know Bible scriptures off the top of my
Right.
head?
Right. So, I mean, first of all, I try to, be normal. Hey, what's up? How you been? Or whatever. But I try to share me before, like, hey, you know what? Like, um, God really loves you, you know. He can do, like, I've seen them, smoking or whatever. Well, people that I know, I try to teach them, or like tell them, like, bro, like, don't do that no more. Like, that's gonna harm you. And like, I used to be this person. I used to do this. I used to do that. But like, look at me, like, I'm not perfect. I'm not where I want to be, but not where I was, So, and if God did this for me, like, He could do it with for you too. He could do it with you. So just give Him a chance. But like I said earlier, there's a lot of people, negative people, but we cannot get distracted. We cannot get like offended or be like, oh, like he said no, like I'm not gonna do it no more. Like that's not us. That's not what we do. Like, we can be offended. We cannot be sensitive. If someone says no, okay, well, we turn around, we go with the other one, and then we'll come back to this one. Because eventually, like, once we get talk to someone, like, for me, like, I kind of keep track of it. We're like, oh, I talked to this one already, so I'm gonna go back later. Like, I'm gonna give him some time. I'm gonna go back. But yeah, talk to him again. Exactly.
And we talked earlier, right? We talked earlier about how we gotta stop comparing ourselves. I think a lot of people at the church do that, and they get intimidated. You know, I know for me, like sometimes I feel intimidated, or sometimes I feel like I'm not even worthy of being. Like when I first started the podcast, I kind of was doubtful. I'm like, I'm not worthy to be on the same channel or platform as Oscar, because this man, like the way I met Oscar was like, man, this is the man of God. I'm just a fresh new believer off the streets, like I didn't know scripture, but I think, and I told you earlier, God separated us for a reason. God gave us a gift different than others, because you're gonna reach somebody I can't. Oscar's gonna reach somebody I can't, and I'm gonna reach somebody you can't. So we gotta stop comparing ourselves, because we God gave us all a special gift that another person doesn't have. So when did you realize that, hey, I am this, I am Javier, and I know who I am in Christ? When did you figure that out?
I think I'm still trying to, like, because everything is happening kind of fast, but it's not. So it's not surprising me in a way, because when I came in, like, I heard this last time, when I came in, I said I'm not stepping back, So what I'm getting is what I was coming to get, and like I don't know this exact scripture, but what we're planting, like our harvest, will get in due time. Like, we'll get what we sow, like, right? As I would say, like, what we sow, we're gonna harvest in due time. So, like, me coming to church and like being really like uh focused, trying to be focused, trying to be on time, trying to not to look back. I was planting that seed of me being in the right way. So it did took me off guard, kind of like what you said, like right when George and Janet called me or called us, me and my wife, and that first meeting, bro, like we're there and like all the everybody else was there, like the part of the team, and we were there. We were like, man, like really, like we're here. Like why? Like why do I have what? And I honestly, like, I asked my question, like, man, what did they see in me? Me, I was like so broken and I was so in darkness, bro. Like, but that's kind of like the beauty of it, like once you start walking with God and like you really give your heart to Him, like don't just come and pretend like like, oh, I'm just gonna go in for a while and see what get like I'm gonna get what I want. I'm gonna pray to God to get what I want, and then I'm out. You know. So, but when you really decide to be like, you know what, God, like I've been there and I know what's there. I don't want to look back. I just when everything I'm gonna give you that, and now I'm gonna give you this new me. You do your work in me, and that's what's happening.
You said something like you asked a question. What did George and Janet see in me? It's not what they saw you. It's what God saw in you. It's what God showed them who you really are. And when I still remember that first meeting that you first came to our 12. Like I knew, I'm like, okay, there's something that Javier has that's gonna complete this team. There's something that Marisol's gonna have that's gonna complete this team. You guys coming on just elevated us, and I think each of us in that team has something that's going to help pull each other, and I think we need to acknowledge who our God is, and we need to acknowledge how great and amazing He is. Like how can you summarize, like, who is God in your life, and like what does He mean to you?
Everything, bro. Everything. Like I just said it right now. Like I was in darkness. Like there was like I said this right. Like I said, I knew there was a God, right? I knew that there was a God. I believed that was a God, but like I never had this relationship that I have now, right? So, but now God is everything. Like God is my refuge. God is my rock. God is my provider. He's not just a healer for me, but for my broken family. And not just for my family, this is for everybody. Like he's the pillar of our home, you know? He's he's like our go-to now. Like I before I had a problem, I used to go to a friend. I used to go to my dad. I used to be to like random people. But now like God, I know that I can go to God. And of course, not we're not gonna get things done right away. But we get pointed to. We get like, we go to God and like God talks to you. God, he tells you, hey, don't do this or go this way or. So we just have to learn how to like listen to him, or like when we read the scripture, be like, okay, so this is what you're trying to tell me. Um, and yeah, so God is for us everything, bro. Like, I love that verse of Joshua. Like, as for me and my family, will serve the Lord, and that's kind of our family, my family's Rema. Like me and my family, no matter what happened, we will serve the Lord.
Amen. I seen you and your wife, and your son, and the way that your son honors you, and that is true in your life. You and your family will serve the Lord. I think it's really cool to see how you transitioned, into being a disciple, and being called a disciple, but not stopping there. I was sharing with you a little earlier that, Pastor actually was preaching on about disciple makers, right? And I see that in you, like that. When you tell us a little bit about how you listen now to preachings, how you listen, how you read, even this, like your devotionals are different when you know that there's a bigger purpose than to fix your problems. Because a person that's a disciple, yeah, they go. There's a difference between a disciple that goes to their leader to fix their problems and a disciple that goes to God and knows that they're a disciple of Jesus Christ, so they could help other people through those same problems, right? So when I hear you speak, I see that difference. I see that you're like, I go to God, where other people go to their friends. So what clicked? Like, was it just that you were called and you were like, okay, well, I'm gonna go and talk to people, or was it that I don't know. I mean, you guys had three cell groups open up this month, right? Like, right? Did that change the game for you guys? Was it that they did it and you're like, oh, I want to do that, or what was it? You know?
Well, like opening a cell group, like so, it's kind of like I'm gonna answer your question and kind of like also's question and first. So it clicked for us a while back. Like it's been in our prayers to open up a cell group, you know. But once we were called, I knew that like I had much responsibility on my back because what you just said, like now I cannot just again, Pastor Pablo said it so on point. Like I don't have that privilege of like, of course I can go to my leader anytime, that's for sure, but I don't have that privilege or that luxury to be like, man, like stuck, or like be like, man, like what I do now, what I do. I have to be on point on what God is telling me, so that I can like, or what he's telling me or what he's doing on me, so that I can pour to other people. It makes sense. Like for instance, at work, you know, people that know me before, like they have seen the change, and I know they kind of want to ask, but they know that, like they know they're not gonna like the answer that I will give them. You know, like they know because they have seen the change. They saw the old Javier, and they've seen the new Javier now. And I have talked to them. You know, I have tried to pour them to them, and that's why I say, like, of course they want to ask, but they're afraid. They don't want to make that step. They don't want to commit. But you know, it's just what makes me. That's what you say, right? What makes me try to do it is like is that I want to keep growing. I don't want to be here. I want to keep growing. I want to keep having this closer relationship with God. I want to make him proud, you know? I want to make him say, "Hey, you know, like you're doing good." You know, that's what we all look for our dads to say, you know? So that's what I trying to do for him.
Man, when I look at you, I think about David. I think about the giant slayer. You know, because every giant that tried to intimidate you, torment you, you went after and you took that giant down because you knew the power of God in your life. You knew who God was in your life. You know, when David went to Goliath, you know, we all know the story of Goliath and David. How Goliath was this huge giant and all these armies, they bowed down to him and, you know, they were all scared of him. But David knew that Goliath was going to fall down because he knew that God was greater. And David attacked Goliath as if the angels were with them, as if the heavens, the army of heaven was with them. And I think that's how we need to attack ministry. We need to attack and win disciples. Win souls and make disciples. Like if God and the angels were with us, we can't be timid because there's someone out there. Literally, like we're probably like the only person like they're gonna see Jesus through. So it's our responsibility to like can't be timid, because it's not about us anymore. We lost that right once we gave our life to Christ. That hey, our fear that's out the door. Timidness is out the door. Nervousness, no, because we need to rely on God to use us as His vessels. And like Isaiah said, he was scared too. He's like, hey, I'm a sinner. Don't use me. And what did the angel do? He brought that coal, put it in his mouth, and Isaiah's like, hey, God, I'm ready. Send me. And with Jonah, he was in that well. He didn't want to go to what was that town? Nineveh. He's like, I'm not gonna go back. What did God do? He threw him in the pit. He threw him in the water. He swallowed up, and that's when Jonah's like, okay, God, I need you. Please get me out of here. I'm gonna go preach. So, like, your purpose is like there's so many people that are gonna come to you, bro. God's gonna use you strongly. When did that? When did that vision first? When was that vision first implemented in you? That hey, I'm gonna make disciples.
I think once I saw once so I think it was a little before encounter, or kind when I saw my wife going an encounter. I saw her kind of like change, and then but it didn't happen like right away because I was still kind of like, man, like you don't know what you're going to go, you don't know what you're doing. But then because the change that she was doing, I was like, man, like this is true, like this is happening, so like, and then the fact that she was going into that, well, into this, but we were still having problems. You know, we were still having problems. I was still like on my stuff. I'm drugs and alcohol, and I didn't want to give in. And but like again, I saw her change, and so I was like, okay, you know what? Like, let's give this a try. You know, let's see what's up. And so that's when I started coming, and the more I started coming, the more the more free I felt. You know, like I make this prayer, bro. Like one time down here in church, and I was like I said, I was barely coming to church, and I was like, I felt that service. I felt it really. Like I felt myself felt heavy. Like I felt like I was carrying something, and I didn't know what it was, but I was afraid to lift up my hands. I was afraid of singing out loud. But that day, I was like, I made a prayer, right, and I made a deal with God, right, in my humanity and my stuff. I was like, man, God, you know what? Like, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop during the week. You know, I'm gonna stop during the week, and I promise you, I'm not gonna do it. But just don't get mad if I do it on the weekend, right? Like, don't get mad. And so I was willing to give out 5 days of my week to make a change, right? But little that I knew with that prayer, like I give out 5 days, and in that first week it was like that. I didn't do anything on those 5 days, and then the weekend I did it. But the second weekend, the third weekend, and so on and on, it was different because the second weekend I was like, it was Friday. I remember it was Friday, and I wanted to take a drink. I wanted to drink, but I was like, nah, like I can drink right now. I'm going to service. Like can't be drinking, so I didn't do it. Right? I was like in my mind, I was like, I'll just do it when I come out. Right? And so come out of service, we were going home, and I still wanted to drink, bro. I still wanted to do it, but I was like, nah, like I just come out of service, like I can't do it. So, like I said, little did I know God was already like ministering, working in me, and I all I wanted to say was like that prayer, sin, like in my humanity, like I was being vulnerable to God at that time. You know, I was like, okay, you know what, like I'm willing to work with you, right? But like so like I look at it now and I was like, how could I do that? You know, like me making bro, like how can I do that? You know, but you know he uses that um, defect in me, like or that pride moment that I had, the flaw, and he used it to change me. You know, so in those times, that's when I kind of realized, okay, you know what, like let's do it. Let's keep going in this path. You know, let's keep walking. And you know, little by little, we started going to service more often, or coming to service more often. We started going to cell group, and you know, everything was evolving and evolving by itself. God's work, bro.
Before I give it to Oscar, I think that's why a lot of people are afraid to come to church because they feel like they need to give everything up right away. I like today I had a conversation with one of my partners and he was like, "Hey, also I just have a question." And I'm like, "What's up?" He's like, "Hey, did you give up everything when you came to Christ?" And I was transparent with him. I'm like, "The alcohol and drugs, yeah, I did." And I told him, "But everybody has a process. And I'm not here to tell you, hey, you better stop that. It's not our job to tell you, hey, you better stop doing this. It's not pastor's job to tell you, hey, to condemn you, right?" I just told him, if you're willing to open yourself up to the Holy Spirit and to God's grace, and if you're open to submitting to Him, God will change you. And I think, that's what I want you guys to, those new believers or people that are contemplating coming to church or not, that it's not our jobs to change you. But if you're willing to give Jesus a chance and you're willing to allow Jesus to work in your life, that conviction will be brought upon you. God will change your heart, transform your mind. We're not here to like judge you. We're here to love on you, and Jesus wants to love on you. And I guarantee you, once you feel Jesus' love, you're gonna want to change. You're gonna want to do everything to glorify Him.
Yeah, the Bible tells us that we love what he loves and hate what he hates, and at one point we used to love doing those things of the world, you know? Um, but it's so crazy because now I'm with you. I used to drink a lot, and you remember those times, and you think, damn, I used to love this, but now I hate it. Like I can't even like, and that's when you made that transition. so honored that we got a chance to see your process with George, and it's so crazy how amazing it's amazing how God does. He puts people together that have walked the same path, so that way you can see in the people who guide you. We call them leaders here at our church, but they're really like guides towards Jesus, right? The word leader has a big connotation out in the world, but all it really is, it's a guide somewhere, and somebody who chooses to follow, sees in Jesus the steps to get to God, and so, um, but it's so really really cool when I see the ministry of George. People like him, like Janet. You walk the same path. Now you have a guide to take people there, and now the steps that you took to God, the radicality, the you being a disciple makers. There's gonna be people that God's gonna send you, that will walk your footsteps. And so when we think of ministry, many people think ministry is this heavy thing that you think you can't carry, but all you have to do is walk. And I think I'm so thankful that you decided to walk, and there's gonna be people that follow those footsteps, and that's as simple as it gets. But I want to leave the last closing thoughts to you. I pray that God like gives you and Marisol a marriage that people could see and walk, and say, I want to be a disciple of Javier one day, because it's gonna be a beautiful thing when you open up that cell group. I know you're gonna do it. You have it in your heart. I shared a long time ago that before you open up a cell group, you have to open it in your heart, and you've opened it already. You just haven't seen it manifest yet. But the people are coming, dude. They're gonna walk your steps. So what can you tell us? What can you tell these men that have been disciples for a long time? They need to transition. I'm not saying that they should. I'm saying they need it because their faith and other people in this world needs them to transition just like you have.
Right. Uh, I mean, I will tell them to surrender. It's part of our grow to let go and surrender to to not like we can act on our own anymore, right? So as much as we want, like you said, we have leaders, but eventually, so it's pretty cool what you said, because when I talked to George, and he told me, oh, I went through this and I went through this and I went through that, and I was like, bro, nah, there's no way, like, how you went through all that and you are this type of person right now, and he had gone through like pretty much what I was going through, you know? So it's pretty cool to see that. And I'll just tell everybody or whomever is watching this show, like, to surrender and like, have a willing heart, have like, things from the world, they don't offer you nothing. Like, the pleasure that they offer you is like, bro, like, very little. And so all I can say is, like, be willing to make that change. Give that step. It's like the best step that you can do. Um, be a follower of Christ is like the best thing, the best decision I have ever made in my life. Um, and be willing. I I did a devotional the other day, and it's so crazy because George shared the same thing, and it's in the book of Luke, and it's a story of Mary. When Mary, when the angel came to Mary, and he told her, like, you're gonna be pregnant and you're gonna give birth to a son. But what impacted me was her willingness, right? She could have say, no, like, I can't do it, like, why, like, like us, like I did, like, me, really, um but she was willing, and she said, you know what, let your plans be fulfilled in me. So I took that for me, really, like, I took it for me that day that I did my devotional, and that's what I can say to other people. Be willing to make that step. Don't be afraid. It when we are in the world, it looks scary, right? It looks scary, but in reality, it's like the most beautiful thing, the best decision ever that you can make. And like my brother also said, like we're here for you, you know. Um, we're here for you. I can be here for you. I'm here for you guys. We have other good leaders that can be here for you guys too. So we just don't be afraid.
Amen. And like the famous words of Oscar, he always says it. I love it. Boom. No, but Javier, thank you for coming on again. It was awesome to see what God's doing in your life, and I'm excited what He's gonna be doing and what's gonna happen 2 or 3 months from now. And I'm proud of you, brother, and let's keep walking, and we'll see what God has planned for us. We'll see you guys in the next one.